Welcome back to another week of the Perinatal Podcast. Dr. Folden, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited.
Yes, amazing. So let's just jump right in. How did you decide to get into physical therapy and body coaching?
Yeah, so physical therapy started super early. I was a kid. I was the kid who, like, you asked what you want to be when you grow up, and I'm like, a doctor. I did just anything. But when I was 16, I went to see my pediatrician with my mom,
Uh-huh.
and my intention was to ask him some questions about medical school.
Yes.
And sadly, he was in the room with me for maybe 30 seconds max, so I didn't get an opportunity to speak with him.
Yes.
But I left that appointment thinking, I really want to work with people in a medical setting, but I want to get to spend more time with them. And
Yes.
so I'm dating myself because I was born in 1981. I went home and the internet was brand new. And I literally typed in sports, because I was like a dancer and a runner at the time, and
Sure.
medical field. And I found sports medicine and I found physical therapy. And I decided at age 16, I was going to be a physical therapist. And I absolutely did that. So the body image coaching came later.
Yeah.
That literally came after living a little bit, getting older, getting married, having 3 children, watching my body change, recognizing I did not have the control over my body that I thought I had. Because I
Yes.
grew up, my dad was a competitive bodybuilder. So I grew up in the world where if you want to change something about your body, you just do it,
Do it.
So I had to really unlearn some things. And it started from a personal journey of accepting my body and being respectful of it and caring for it, and then teaching that to other people. So that probably, it has been a journey for like the last 5 years or so. So that's still fresh.
Wow. Well, I mean, all of it's amazing. You're right. Like the opportunity to spend more time with people one-on-one. Honestly, that was what a pivotal moment for you to be like, I'm going to ask you all these questions. Like, oh, okay. So that's not my vision for how I want to interact with people.
Absolutely.
Right. And then to have grown up, I mean, bodybuilding is I'm speaking way outside of my scope of knowledge. I have some friends who have done some competitions and I've noticed it, but like that is such a whole thing. And you're right, like, oh, I need to do this, so I'm going to eat these things and do these things, and I'm going to look like that. And that's not really how it works for everybody.
It's not. And for those of us that can do that it's understanding that is a very temporary thing. So
Yes.
I watched my dad. My dad was Mr. Michigan in 1989 for the lightweight division. So he was good. He won.
Nice.
But I watched him eat baby food. I watched him work out 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day. So it was a certain lifestyle for a body aesthetic that had nothing to do with actual health.
Yes.
But we've always associated, when we see people's bodies like that, we associate that with really good health. But
health and fitness, health and physique are not necessarily linked.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh my goodness, that's so interesting. Yeah, I dated a wrestler in high school, and he on weigh-in days would eat like half a thing of Starbursts.
Yep.
And that was it.
That was it. Got to make weight.
Yes. And it was just a foreign concept to me. And of course, obviously I was 16 and my body did magical things that it certainly does not do at 38.
That part.
But yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's so interesting. And Mr. Michigan, though, congratulations.
Thank you. I was very proud of him.
I mean, it's amazing. Absolutely. And it does, I mean, this kind of leads into where I was going to go next, kind of the willpower to be able to eat only half a thing of Starburst. Again, not a healthy choice, but, or the things that you have to do, working out 4 and 5 hours a day and eating baby food. And I loved one of your posts where it talked about willpower and discipline and what that means in regards to our success on the scale, fitting into our clothes, our physique. And I would love to hear you talk more about that.
Yeah, well, I think, again, in the way that I grew up, and I think the way that sort of diet culture, which is the overarching theme of, a lot of what I do, we grow up in this, under this guise that, your body is your business card. Your body is a reflection of your internal health, your body, your body, your body. And this idea that if she can do it, insert random person on the internet, lose weight, look a certain way, be disciplined and focused, then if you just had that discipline and focus, you could also do it. And I think the post that you're talking about, I refer to my personal discipline. This could be a whole long interview about childhood trauma and growing up in poverty and all these things, right, that make you very resilient. I'm a very resilient person. I have really, really strong discipline. When I commit to a goal, I'm going to do it. Like I told you at 16, I said, I'm going to be a physical therapist. And by 23, I was one. So
Yeah.
I'm very serious about my goals. But what I learned the hard way after crashing and burning a few times is that that is not sustainable, nor is it the healthiest version of me. My body does not understand that my willpower and discipline wants me to be a size 4. My
Mhm.
body is trying to keep me alive. That's it. It's trying to keep me existing, and it's
Yes.
trying to maintain itself. So these lengths that I try to go to make my body look the way that I believe it should look maybe the way it looked when I was in high school, or I used to have crazy goals when I was in middle school before I was even a fully grown and developed
Right.
woman. It's understanding that that is not the way to go if you want to have sustainably good health.
Mhm.
And so really your willpower, your commitment to a goal, in my opinion, doesn't mean a whole lot as it relates to the size of your body, because genetically we are inclined to be within a certain range, and there's only so much we can do to manipulate it. And we can go too far in manipulating and find ourselves in, the middle of an eating disorder and disordered moving behaviors because we're
Mhm.
trying to manipulate our body. So then again, we're searching for health,
Yes.
but we're doing very unhealthy things
Yes.
really for a body aesthetic. So it
Mm.
doesn't mean very much, to be quite honest.
I love that post because I don't think people like 1 + 1 = 2,
Hmm.
discipline equals size 2, or insert whatever
Hmm.
size, goal size here. And it really isn't. I liked you also mentioned too kind of the disordered movement as well, because I don't think
Yeah.
people understand that you can be maladaptive in your working out and your movement as
Yes.
well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not like officially a part of like the DSM, like the
Right.
the diagnosed medically diagnosed eating disorders, but orthorexia nervosa is starting to gain more attention, and it is that like unhealthy obsession with exercise because it is for the purpose of changing and manipulating our bodies, and it gets really deep for a lot of people. And there are a lot of people, who may be diagnosed with anorexia or bulimia or other eating disorders that also have this compulsion for exercise and movement that is, detrimental to our bodies, is really what it is. We don't like to say it because, we like exercise to always be painted in a beautiful, healthy, happy light. But there
Yeah.
are absolutely times where exercise
Mhm.
is contraindicated and not healthy. And I
Yeah.
work with that population of people because I do work with people in eating disorder recovery. And by the time they get to me, we're ready to begin exploring exercise again, but it's in a very, very different way because we have to
Yes.
unlearn and relearn some things. So
I feel like that's going to be kind of the theme of our discussion today is unlearn and relearn,
yes.
because it is so true. And I always try to be very intentional about using the word movement,
Hmm.
because I think the word exercise either scares somebody off, or certainly,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, in the compulsive area,
Hmm.
using it different ways, but movement, like getting up and stretching, or
Yeah.
necessarily counting the calories that you've burned and the heart rate and all of that. And
Right.
yeah, so I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about that as well. Hopefully that'll come out. And what are we on? We're on DSM-5 text revision. So hopefully in DSM-6 we'll get a little more focus on
Right. We're
that.
still learning.
Yeah, we are. Well, that's right, right? We're doing what we can. So how do we shift the focus then from wanting to be a certain size, changing our self-talk, looking
Mhm.
at like the way of like kind of accepting our natural homeostasis?
Yeah. So it's hard, and I think that a lot of us need support to do it. So I almost every client that I see, I'm like, are you in mental health therapy? Like, are you seeing someone to talk through the stuff? Because we're gonna talk, but that is not my area of expertise.
Right, right. Yeah, it's
you
like
know.
unpacking. Yeah, yeah, yes,
I got so much room for that.
yes.
But it's like I want you working with a professional that manages some of this stuff so that you have sort of a safe space to talk through some things and to have your aha moments in that way. So really it's about assembling a team. So having, a mental health therapist, perhaps a registered dietitian, ideally a physical therapist or someone who can coach you in the movement piece of it safely, or personal trainer who is, Hays aligned, eating disorder informed, and all of those things.
Mhm.
And having that team, and then seeking out the knowledge and information yourself. I know for me, my transition away from diet culture and away from, this obsessive and uncomfortable and unhealthy relationship with movement and food really took me seeing the science and the information.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
needed to know that, like, okay, this isn't just like something that feels better to me, right? It needed to be something that made sense scientifically. Like, I
Sure.
needed to see it. So it was a lot of reading and learning. So I started, I think the first book was Health at Every Size by Dr. Bacon. That was like a, oh, what? And so
Yes.
once I started to see that there was research to support the idea of intuitive eating, research to support the idea of a health focus that is not weight centric, that is weight neutral, then it started to make sense. My own experiences, like with losing the weight and gaining more weight and feeling bad about myself and then losing the weight. I was like, okay, there's a rhyme and a reason, because our bodies do just want to be in sort of a whatever our little natural state is. Some people are just genetically inclined to be thinner. Some people are just genetically inclined to be larger or fatter. And we just stigmatize the people in the large bodies. And
Yes.
it makes us all focus on, this is the
Yes.
best way to go. Be thin, be small. So shifting the focus, unlearning what we thought we knew about health, fitness, wellness, happiness, and learning, what the information that's actually out there, and then engaging in it daily by assembling your team. I have my clients curate their social media so that it's very safe.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
a safe, focused place to be, because diet culture is all around you. You're going to be in school with people that are talking about losing weight and, cutting calories and this and that. You're going to be, out to dinner with girlfriends who are going to, body shame themselves. It's like a
Yes.
bonding thing women do sometimes. I don't know why,
Yes.
but you're going to engage with these things, commercials, television, magazine, like you're not going to be able to escape it. So you have to create sort of a safe space for yourself where you have people around you, medical providers, supporters, friends, family, and then a social media feed. If you spend time on social media, that encourages body peace and body acceptance, and not trying to change and manipulate your body. But it's not
Mm.
easy. Like, I won't even, it's a whole process.
It really is. I have like 8 things that I want to say right now. I'm so excited about all of them. So it is really unlearning everything. I even mentioned to you, like, we just talked earlier, well, before we started recording, about being 80s babies, and like growing up, I was in undergrad during the Victoria's Secret real rise of Victoria's Secret. I mean,
Yeah.
actually was from the 90s as well, but in the aughts, and the next top model, where people were flat out telling people you are a
Mm,
size 4 and you are fat, and not a fat
yes.
like having fat, but how dare you.
Yeah.
Um and it's so hard to shake that off. I have so many clients who are around my age, younger, but they came up they were in junior high during that era, and that really
Yeah.
acceptable. We hear our mothers, our family members
Yes.
bashing themselves, and
Hmm.
that is the language that we grew up with. That is our
Yeah,
native language in
it
terms of
is.
our self-view, in terms of fat and all of that. And that is an unlearning process.
It is, it really is. And it's all around us. It's every time we turn on the TV. It's the things like, you watch a movie and the lead character is a thin person always. If
Mhm.
there is a large body person in the film, they are the fat sidekick
Yes.
friend. They are the butt of the jokes.
Mhm.
Perhaps they go through some sort of transformation process where they then become thin and beautiful
Yes.
and happy and popular. So
Yes.
we've been fed this dream our whole lives that you will have beauty and popularity and
Yes.
happiness and joy and a great life if you are able to maintain some level of thinness. And that is, oh, it's so wrong. You know what I mean? 'Cause it's so
Yes.
inaccurate, and it's just a pervasive thing, like diet culture. And it comes from patriarchy, racism, capitalism, all those things, right? So it's not a
Yes.
force that we can just make disappear next week. Like,
Yes.
I was talking to another colleague, and I'm like, my hope, our hope is like, our kids are clearly growing up in diet culture. Their kids will probably grow up in diet culture, but maybe our great grandkids will start to see a world where diet culture is like diminishing, because it's hard. It's like our
It is.
whole world.
Yes. It's so funny that you say that. I am so unrealistic. My son will be in kindergarten a year from right now. And in my mind, I'm still like, by the time my kids get there, everything's going to be better. I say,
I
so,
wish, I hope.
hey,
But
we're going to keep trying. That's why you and I are talking right now. We're spreading the word.
absolutely.
We're doing our
Yes.
job. But it's so interesting because, yes, it's that hustle culture. And if you hustle hard enough, you can be thin.
Yes.
And how dare you not hustle? And I love that we are like in the nap culture. We're trying to push that. to the forefront. We are shaking off capitalism in a number of
Yes.
ways. We even talk about it in therapy, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget the person I follow and I love his account. I apologize. I'm going to put it in the show notes. I apologize. He said, like, if you as a therapist feel like you are not accomplishing something every session, your capitalism might be showing. And I was like,
Ooh.
what?
I
Yeah.
know, it's like an assault. Oh,
I was
oh,
like,
it's
shots
hard.
fired. Absolutely
Yeah.
correct. That is, I apologize. I'm gonna put the link to that in my show notes. Because absolutely I was like, yeah, and that's the thing. If you are consistently striving and doing and hustling and making, there's no reason why your body shouldn't also physically reflect that, Victoria's Secret ideal or insert
Right.
ideal. I want to just come for less Wexners, but well, kind of do anyway. But yeah, absolutely. You also mentioned earlier haze. I was wondering, I'm sure most people are familiar with it, but if you could give us kind of a rundown on
Mhm.
that as well, just in case for anybody who's like, wait, what is she talking about?
Yeah, so health at every size, or HAES. It's essentially, I know that the principles and definitions are going through some transition.
Sure.
They are sort of, if you want information on it, the ASDA website is the place to go, asdah.org, which is the Association for Size Diversity and Health. But it's essentially principles that support the ideas of, equitable care and access to, health and medicine and things of that nature. It's about compassion towards yourself. It's about respect. It's about moving for joy. It sort of embraces all these principles around this idea of health and recognizing that health is not a size. Health does not look a certain way. And most importantly, what I think is one of the most important components of the principles of HAES is that health is not a moral obligation. Like, if you're not in the gym all week and I am, I don't get to shame you because you're not working on your health. Like, that is probably the ugliest side of like the health and fitness and diet culture movement, is this idea that if someone isn't really working hard, then they're probably just really lazy. They're going to be really fat and they deserve whatever medical consequences or issues come to them. And it's like, really? That's not compassion. That's not kindness. That is a form of discrimination. That's really what it is. And so HAES, is really about social activism and helping to make sure that the world is more accepting and accessible and kind to all people, but especially to people in large bodies, and especially to people who are at the intersection of so many marginalizations. So we're talking about people in large bodies, Black and brown people, transgender, like all of that, because these people are treated as the least of us. They are given the least amount of concern and regard in the medical world and in the world at large, and they deserve kindness, care, access to, support services. I don't always argue on social media, but sometimes I have time. And I had a whole argument with a woman who was a nurse, a whole nurse. So I had to
Yeah.
like, but I was talking about how we don't, in the medical field, we will deny access to care to people in larger bodies based on their BMI. We'll say we can't give you a joint replacement surgery because you could die on the table because of the anesthesia and your body weight, but we will refer them to have bariatric surgery. And I was talking about how, basically your life, that to me, that says your life doesn't really matter. We're not willing to do this work for you unless you're trying to get skinny. Then, listen, you can risk it all. That's what that said to me. And she commented something to the extent of, I'm a trauma nurse and you have no idea how hard it is to revive someone, or move a body when they're, obese and large and bleeding out and gunshot and all of these things. And I was like, okay. I was like,
We take
I
a
was
breath
like,
first.
I was like, you know what? You're right. I don't know what that's like. I absolutely respect what you do as a professional, and I've never done it. And so 100%. I was like, but let me just pose this thought to you. Just because something is hard and challenging for us as practitioners, does that mean we're not supposed to freaking do it? Does that mean your body is too hard for me to work with? You just got to go.
It's
No,
wild.
that's not what we do. We are here to help the client, help the patient. That is our job. Those are the oaths that we take.
Yes,
So
yes.
turning people away because perhaps the adipose tissue in their abdomen makes it hard to find an organ, and we still need to do the work. And
Yeah.
that's my thought process, when it comes to HAES and this idea of like compassion and really caring for people, is
Yeah.
we still have to do the hard shit. Like, I don't know if I can curse on here.
let the shits fly. We'll put a little
Okay,
E.
perfect.
We'll put a little E on the.
Perfect. Yeah, like we
Sometimes
still
we have
have
the
to
E.
do it.
Sometimes we don't have the E. It's not a big deal. Let it
It's
fly.
fine. Good, good,
But
good.
that's so, gosh, I feel like we could spend the rest of the hour talking about this, and I'm not going to, but that's really interesting. I wonder if
Yeah.
she really stepped back and thought like what I just said and what I meant, and like
Yeah.
it's harder, but then therefore, because I have to do more work, your life is not valuable to me. And I can't imagine that any person
Right.
who spent their time and energy and money devoting themselves to this practice actually believes that. And yet it is
Right.
absolutely what was said.
It was. Yeah, for
Oh,
sure. She didn't
wow.
respond, so maybe it.
Maybe you gave her an opportunity to reflect, and she was like, oh, that is what I said. And I
Yeah,
meant it is still hard. And also we can do hard shit. So
that part. Yes, and.
yes, and oh my gosh. So what are
Mm,
some of your encouragements for people kind of navigating those days where we can't shake the negative body image? I mean, I will express to myself, I have had 2 cesarean sections. The first one, my
mhm.
body, we talk about bounce back culture. I am so frustrated by it. People feel
Yes.
entitled to make carousels of celebrities like, look at their amazing bounce back.
Right.
It's news. Why is this news? It's a person's body. But
It is not.
and the second one, I mean, I've got my C-section overhang. I've got this loose skin. It's hard
Mhm.
for me on certain days. I mean, I'm so grateful for the children I have, not that we're participating in the trauma Olympics, but there are certain days where even I struggle, and I've got my own therapist. I've got my psychiatrist. I've got,
Yeah.
I've got this beautiful. What are the days? I just want to normalize that for people. Like you will have
Yeah.
days where you just cannot find the love for your body, especially how it
Yes.
used to look and how it looks now. What are the things that you give people to encourage them on that after my long tangent rant?
No, you're fine, but no, that's relatable, and and I'm the same way. I coach people on this, and I still wake up and have bad days. I have like my favorite joggers on, and sometimes I look down like, oh, the pooch is really
Yes,
pooching.
yes.
Okay.
Pull it up. Pull it up.
And I just have
Yep.
to, like, and so a few different things. First of all, I like people, I agree with you. We need to normalize it.
Mhm.
Even if you consider yourself the queen of positive body image, it is really hard to live that way because the world around us consistently tells us that we're not enough and there's something wrong with us. And we see people being celebrated for weight loss and talked about or ignored for weight gain. And so we get the messages all day. So
Mhm.
just like that whole idea of unlearning, we have to practice it every single day and
Yeah.
surround ourselves with images and encouragement and support for our body image. But here's
Mhm.
the reality. Nobody wakes up every day and loves their body. Nobody wakes up every day and is like, oh, you are just, I love you. Like we
Yes.
don't always feel that. So I have my clients reach back to a place of neutrality and just respect.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
respect. Because here's the reality. Whatever your definitions of beauty and ugly, attractive and unattractive, just because, for example, you're single, you're looking to mingle, and you see someone and they are attractive, right? There
Sure.
may be a level of engagement with them that you will give, and then you see someone who is unattractive.
Mhm.
Maybe you're not going to give them that attention, but what you're not going to do is be mean and rude and nasty to them.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So take
Yes.
that perspective into your body. Just because I'm not looking at you like all into you today
Yes.
does not mean I get to talk badly about you, does not mean I get to put you down. So I teach my clients to treat their bodies and themselves like they would treat a best friend, to a stranger, a
Yeah.
child, the
Yes.
baby version of themselves. A lot of people can
Um,
identify with that. Their own child.
mhm.
How would you treat your own child if their body looked different today?
Yes. Yes. That
You
is
wouldn't be like,
so,
you know,
yeah.
so
That's
just
so powerful.
take all the fluff off, right? Because again, it doesn't have to be all pretty and that, but just respect and appreciation for the fact that you have a body, that it has done something for you. I always tell people, like, if you're alive today, you made it through a freaking global pandemic. Hello.
That's
Thank you,
right.
body. Right?
Hey, buddy.
If
Yeah.
you've given birth, thank you, body. Like so
I
many
mean,
things.
I
So just
mean.
respect and gratitude and
Mhm.
neutrality over positivity any day.
Mhm. Well, that toxic positivity, that's a whole other podcast episode as well.
All
I
right.
mean, where we just constantly walk around like, oh, okay, absolutely, yes, everything's great, everything's wonderful. Well, no, everything's not awesome all the time, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay too. And being just okay is a good thing. We're constantly striving for perfection and amazing and outstanding all the time,
Yeah.
and
It's
also, yeah,
exhausting.
it really, we're again taking away from that, walking away from that hustle culture, and sometimes saying
Right.
this is good and enough. And
Mm-hmm.
again, yeah, it's a privilege to be able to move in the ways that we do, that we are
Yeah.
able to move, and for each one of us that looks different, certainly. But yeah, I love that too. It's been very helpful for me as my son, he just turned 4, and I don't know at
Mhm.
what point you start remembering things. I definitely have memories from when I was 4, and I don't know, right after
Yeah.
it turned or right as I was closer to 5, who knows, who cares? But I'm thinking, like, if I catch myself, checking myself in the mirror, or like, sitting a certain way, or even actually
Right.
articulating something, is that the message that I want my 2 small children to see, especially
Right.
from the person that they respect as kind of I'm the navigator of their life for a while.
Yeah, you're the
And if
first
that's what
teacher.
I'm showing them, I certainly
Mhm.
wouldn't speak to them that way, but I'm even speaking to myself in front of them that way, then they
Which is just
internalize
as
that as
bad.
the way to
Mhm.
do it.
Yep. Yep. I saw a post about that. Like, things you say about your body are basically what you're saying about your child's body if they're in earshot, and the ways that you engage with your body. They pick up on all that. They notice if you're not getting in the camera. They notice if you're sucking in your stomach or hiding. Like, they get it. They
Yes.
see it, and they pick up on that, and they internalize those behaviors, and they'll be trying to unlearn it and sort it out and figure it out in therapy years later. So, again, no shame in that, because we live in this world. So I understand. Like, I
We're talking
understand why,
about goal. The goal
right? The
is,
goal. But the
yeah,
reality is, we live here and it's hard. And I know why people come to me and say, I just really want to lose weight. I get it. I don't shame you for that. I want
yeah,
to help you see that maybe we can shift the focus. But I
yes,
understand. I understand that desire, because
yeah,
what the world is easier navigating in a smaller body. It just is. You're
yeah.
not treated the same if you're in a large body. So I understand it and I empathize with it. But can I
Mhm.
help you maybe reconsider?
Yes, absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
It really is. You mentioned already, or like maybe our great grandchildren will be able to, but you're right. We're navigating the world as it is, and systemically, we are set up in a space where smaller bodies are white skin, smaller
Mhm, mhm,
bodies,
mhm.
ableist. All of that is
Yes.
seen as right, and we're doing what we, again. That's why we're here having this conversation. We're doing what
Yeah.
we can, and the goal versus the reality.
Yes, for
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
So I wanted to talk, because we've been talking about kind of physique versus health, and you've also
Mhm.
mentioned before you've had a number of posts about this, and it's something I hadn't really thought about,
Mhm.
but like how body weight and joint pain are not
Mhm.
necessarily connected, because that's the thing that I hear a lot of too, when people are like, oh well, this person's a larger size, but I wonder how their knees
Yeah.
are, like, are they healthy? Like, can you talk more about that? I really feel like
Mhm.
we need to talk about this more.
Yeah, I can teach a course on this, because
Yes,
it's a pervasive thought. It is taught, in my physical therapy education. I'm be very clear. I am very respectful of my physical therapy education, because it was very holistic. It did not just focus in on one thing. We're
sure.
very mindful of, like, you're treating a patient with a knee issue. You're not treating a knee. You know what I mean? So
Yes, 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 yes,
we
yes.
definitely recognize and see the whole person, and we were
Mhm.
certainly, obesity and higher weights was always listed as one of the issues and concerns when we're dealing with joint pain, especially if we're talking about, like, hip, knees, and ankles. And I believed that for years as a clinician. It wasn't until, again, starting to do this learning and unlearning, that I realized that is not as true as people believe that it
Mm,
is.
mhm.
And when you are
Sure,
given that information from a medical provider, I would argue that you are getting lazy medicine. It's lazy medicine to blame people's health and medical issues on their weight and body size. It just is. And it's because the research is clear. For the most part, unless you have gained a significant amount of weight in a very short period of time, which I typically only see if someone is, in, like, medical, receiving medical care, and maybe, like, on steroids, something that's going to
sure,
really blow them up. And
sure,
then
sure.
steroids in itself has impact on our joints. So
Of
completely,
course.
chicken egg, who knows? But
Sure.
in general, most people who have either always been heavy or have gained weight progressively over the course of their lives, the beautiful thing about our bodies, our bones adjust and adapt to our body weight. They literally, like, beef up, in a sense, to the changes in our bodies. They wear differently, they support us
Yeah.
differently. So your weight has way less impact on your joint pain than you think. What is probably impacting your joint pain is if you have a history of contact sports, injuries to those specific joints, if you have, like, a rheumatoid arthritis or any form of arthritis, if you, have just always, like, a lot of people, not just contact sports, but if you do a lot of, like, sort of plyometric work, like jumping and banging. And over time, maybe the connective tissue, the meniscus has worn down. All of that can happen. And that literally happens to people from size 0 up into size 30 something. So it is not dependent upon the size of your body. It's a misnomer. It's an overgeneralization, and it's really lazy medicine to say that someone's joint pain has to do with their body weight. And so what I always say when I get an opportunity to talk to medical professionals and like medical students is provide patients in larger bodies with the same treatment options you would provide a patient in a smaller body with that same complaint, knee pain, ankle pain, hip pain, whatever, because chances are whatever it is you're giving that thinner person will help and impact the person in the larger body as well. It's not just about weight loss. And here's the other part. Even if I'm wrong, like you can listen to this and completely not believe me, that's fine. I don't care. If I'm wrong that weight and joint pain are not, connected like we think, and they really are, right? And you just lose weight. The reality is intentional weight loss has a fail rate of 97%. So no medical professional who cares anything about research and statistical significance will recommend a treatment option that has a 97% fail rate. Okay. It doesn't make sense. So even if all you need to do is lose 50 pounds and your joint pain will go away, the idea that they can probably lose that 50 pounds, they have less than a 3% chance. So give them something else.
Okay, I need to keep talking because this is a podcast and it would be really, I just need to I want to sit with this for a minute. And that number doesn't surprise me, but it does. Like, we have longitudinally studied this, and this is an actual scientific research-based information telling you that 3% of people would be successful with that. And so the answer for somebody, lazy medicine, right? To
Lazy
be able
medicine.
to say,
it's easier.
Just lose some weight. It won't hurt anymore. And I like what you're saying. Okay, so it's giving the same treatment to the person in another sized body to the other person in the other sized body, and see where that might go, versus saying like, go lose weight, which we know is a 3% success rate.
Exactly.
But then you're really giving me no treatment at all, because that's not necessarily going to work.
None. And that's the inequity in healthcare for people in larger bodies. Don't give them the options because, there's tons of studies on this. People, they've surveyed incoming medical residents and found that I think more than 60 or 70% of them had biases toward larger bodies, assuming that people in larger bodies were lazier or less intelligent or, less willing to, less compliant. Like, so when you go in with these biases, you believe that you treat people differently. Even if you're the kindest, most loving person in the world, you treat them differently because of this bias that exists in your mind. You don't expect they're going to follow through with the treatment options. You don't expect that they exercise. You don't believe them when they say, I work out 3 days a week. I don't eat all of these things maybe you think I eat. They don't believe them. And so that impacts how we engage with people and the care that we offer them.
The care that we offer them. Yeah. If I don't think you're going to do it, then what's the point of me? I'm using air quotes for people not watching on YouTube, wasting my time.
Exactly.
I know that you are less intelligent, lazy, unlikely to comply with it. Wow.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That is a lot, and a lot to sit with. And again, systemically, where it comes from, people coming into the medical practice, learning those or having that thought. Oh my goodness gracious. So what do you feel like, what is the best thing in terms of, I don't even know how I want to ask this question, because I feel like I'm being sizist or, whatever, but what is healthy eating though? Like, I will admit, I sit in this body of this size and also love a bacon cheeseburger, and have my people who have heard my show have heard me talk about my binge eating disorder in the past. But, so like, how do we help people to get to a space where they feel like they are fueling their bodies in an appropriate way that does help them to feel healthy, no matter what they physically look like on the outside, but that we're making better choices to feel fueled appropriately?
So for me, the first step is first of all, that giving anyone like specific information on healthy eating is out of my wheelhouse, because I'm not a dietitian and they don't teach any nutrition in physical therapy school and also in medical school, which is why registered dietitians are a gift to the world, especially when they are HAES aligned and not weight centric. So first and foremost, getting your information from a reliable and worthy source.
Yes.
The second thing is understanding that your healthy is different than my healthy.
Oh, that's very true.
You might have celiac disease and you better not touch gluten. I'm gonna eat all the carbs because I know that that is my brain and body's preferred fuel
Yes.
source, like period. And when
Mm.
I don't eat them, especially as a woman in my 40s who's aging, my body starts to metabolize my protein, my muscle, and I need that as I get older,
Yes.
especially because my bone density is going down. So there's some very basic things, you know, for all of us, but if you're a man, a woman, depending upon your age and what you do in your day-to-day life, healthy eating looks different to you than it does to someone else.
Uh-huh.
The key, the general principles, I practice intuitive eating. I think that is the way to go. I think it just makes the most sense. It is the most kind and compassionate way to approach food. The 10 principles are, you know, a part of like literally how I live my life. But I think it's really important to expose yourself to a variety of foods. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
things that not things that you're allergic to, but a variety of foods that you can access. I think that it's important to have all of the food groups. Like it shouldn't just be, you know, only this, and as much food as you can and can be exposed to that you enjoy. And
Mm-hmm.
food needs to be, it needs to offer you something health wise, be it calories, be it vitamins, be it, you know, protein, whatever. And it also needs to offer you something taste wise. And there's no shame in it offering you something emotional. I know we say like emotional eating, binge eating, we get very like,
Uh-huh.
but eating and food is a part of your experiences in life. I cook my grandmother's macaroni because she is no longer with us. And it is one of the ways that I experience her and think about her and pay, you know, homage to her. So there's nothing wrong with the emotional aspect. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want food and eating to be the only way you cope and manage emotions,
Right.
but it's okay for it to be an aspect of it as well. So it's really having a neutral, kind of like the body image thing, a more neutral relationship with food, taking out the hierarchy, this idea that this is a good food, this is a bad food. 100% I get more nutrition from a carrot than I do from a Snickers bar. Absolutely. But there is room for both of them. There is room
Yeah.
for both of them. And we don't need shame. And when we start to omit food items and say, I can't have that Snickers bar, I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to eat the whole thing, or I'm going to have 5 of them, or it's not good for me. Then we start to obsess about that food and it becomes a God in our minds. And then we cannot pull ourselves away from it. Restriction is what encourages binging in most cases. So
Yes.
understanding that we need to give ourselves access to the foods that we enjoy so that it won't be such a stressful situation trying to hide from it or hide it from us or run away
Yes.
or eat before you go out to dinner. You know, that all of that stuff is from diet culture and it encourages a very unhealthy relationship with food. So get a professional, open yourself up to all the things food wise within your realms of comfort. Make sure you're choosing food that tastes good and provides you with some nutrition. Think about understanding how food makes you feel. If you know, when I have ice cream or dairy, I am done. I can't, I'm in pain. Then guess what? You probably don't need it very often. But you know what? Sometimes you're going to get it because you want the taste and you're going to have to be prepared for the side effects that come.
So
And
what's
that's
coming
okay.
next?
But that's your choice. You get to be completely autonomous in that and decide, you know what? I'm about to be cramping tonight because this ice cream is delicious. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, right.
But really just taking the judgment out of it and that, you know, that moral thing with, like we talk about with health, like you should be eating, you shouldn't be. And that doesn't help anybody get healthier. That should and shouldn't and creating this moral high ground in this hierarchy.
Oh my gosh. I love, we say don't shit on yourself in therapy, and the same thing goes here, right? Like don't should, but it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so freeing when the restriction where it's like, because then you don't have that moment, like you said, and this is me speaking for my own individual self. And also I've done some trainings and whatever, but like, there is this moment, I'll speak for myself, where like when I finally was like, I'm going to stop doing, because I was doing keto for a while because that worked for me before I had kids. And I was like, that's going to help me to not binge because I'm going to have very specific things that I can eat. And it did for a while, but then my body started reacting to it in a different way and holding fat in certain ways, like you said too, and like metabolizing your proteins in different ways.
Yes.
And then I was just like, you know, what if I just let myself eat? And then I wasn't stressed about it. And then I was in a space where there was no like, okay, well, I'm going to live in my mind as well. And I'm just going to,
Right.
because I was allowing myself to have rice with my children with my dinner, because they know they get a carb and a veggie and a fruit and a protein, all of those things. And it really does just make that difference in like not shooting on yourself, not having that hierarchy. I love what you talked about the emotional component, because I think that might be one of the things that we talk about the most about, like, there can be like, don't eat because you're emotional. It's like, well, no, I miss my grandma. I'm going to make this macaroni and cheese, which, by the way, if you want to shoot me that recipe,
I will.
and I don't know, some people's parents were like, that dies with me, or don't share it outside the family. But if I would love it. But
I got you.
it's like when we talk about the difference between adaptive and maladaptive, right? Like that helps you to feel this emotional connection, whatever. When it becomes maladaptive is when we need to recognize that we need to take a step back. I'm
Yes.
eating the macaroni and cheese because nothing else will make me feel better in this moment, versus, no, this is just a nice, joyful moment, and I am having an emotional component. And isn't that nice?
Yeah. And isn't that nice? Yep. And we just got to be nicer to ourselves. That's what it is. Like, we're so mean, and we're meaner to ourselves than we would ever be to anybody else. It's like,
I have that conversation so much. We just hold ourselves in this higher aspect. That's why we ask that question, like, what would you say to a friend? Because we have so much more grace for our friends.
we
If a
do.
friend were saying the exact same thing to me, I would be like, girl, absolutely, take your time, do what you need. No, don't do that. Take whatever, of course, you don't have to. But for me, I have to hold myself to a higher standard.
I must.
I must. I
Yes.
absolutely have to, and I
Yeah.
will. It's really important for us to, I don't know how many times we need to hear it before we start trying to internalize it, but it's a process of unlearning. Like, you and I were born in the 80s. It's been a minute that we've been hearing these other stories, and it's a process
Yes.
of unlearning and unpacking that.
For sure, for sure. And that's the next step in, like, the next step in really being, you can do the work, right? And help other people. But when you like turn that light and shine it on yourself and start to do that work there for real, you can be kind to other people, but now you're kind to you. Now you're the example. That's another level of like, whew, it's like getting close to the black belt.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my
For
gosh. So
sure.
this is like a 90-degree turn, but I really want to talk about it because it's another one of your posts that I've loved. Why is it not, and I say this tongue in cheek because I'm already rolling my eyes, but why is it not a compliment to tell somebody you don't even look like you've had a baby?
You know what? People are so well intentioned, then they think,
Yes.
again, because we live in a fat phobic world. So the idea that proximity to fatness or being overweight, and I do air quotes all day because I don't even believe in the terms overweight and obese. It's a bunch of BS. But anyway, being
Yes.
in a large body, being fat, being overweight, being obese is considered so negatively that it's okay. Like, oh, you had a baby, so that makes sense. But it's like, oh my God, what an achievement. You had a baby and don't even look like it. So it's not a compliment. It's a backhanded compliment. This idea that if you were larger, if you did look bigger, excuse me, if you had maintained some of the weight, then you would be less attractive.
Yes.
And so you just look better because you managed to shed a lot of that weight and snap back or whatever. And so it's what it is. It's a way to compliment someone at the expense of everyone else, if that makes sense.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's like this idea that, oh, girl, I don't know how you did it because you look great. Now the rest of it, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. There's nothing wrong with looking like you had a baby. It's a beautiful gift. Like, why would I not expect my body to be changed for a long time and or forever after having like given birth? I brought a life 3 times into this world. It would be odd if my body didn't look different. You know what I mean? Like,
flex that appropriately. Yes.
Yeah. So it's not a compliment. It's a backhanded compliment. And it's really just paying tribute to fat phobia and weight stigma. And so we don't want to do that. We can compliment people in many different ways.
Oh my gosh. I was already excited to ask this question, and that is the most perfect response. But you're right though, because you're complimenting somebody at shaming of everyone else. And being able to, and I just wanted to say it out loud because I don't think people hear it enough, like to just not comment on other people's bodies.
Yeah,
like,
just stop.
How are you feeling? Certainly, it's a rigorous process to have been pregnant for 40 weeks or however many weeks, and then to pop that baby out in whichever way it comes out. Certainly, if you want to ask them how their body is feeling, but in general, it's just so wild to me that people feel so entitled to comment on people's bodies. And I did grow up with a smaller frame. And it's really wild for that, how I'm thinking now, so many people's faces and names have come screaming back to me of like, they thought that they were saying something positive, but
They
all it
did.
singled me out and made me feel in some sort of way othered or,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and so, yeah, I just really encourage people to just not comment on other people's bodies
You
and
don't. And
ask
if
them how
you,
they're feeling or how you can
yeah, and
help.
if you feel like you want to say something about their appearance, you can say something as simple as, you look great.
Sure.
You look amazing. You
Mhm.
look strong. You look healthy. Oh my gosh, you look so happy. You're glowing. I mean, we can, I understand. I do this on my social media. Some people are like, oh, I can't say anything about anyone's appearance. Of course you can, if the person you're talking to is receptive to that. But
Sure.
there are ways to do it that don't shame other bodies or don't create a hierarchy of bodies and make it seem as
Yes.
though this body is the best one. You got it. You got lucky, or good for you. Because it's not. And it just reinforces these ugly ideas. And when that person gains weight later on, because, life, and they
Yes.
stop hearing those compliments,
Yes.
that happened to me. That is such a mind fuck. Like that, oh my God, people think I'm fat now. People don't think I'm attractive. And it's like, these people don't even matter, but it does something to you.
It does
So
something.
it's
We
more
would be
harmful.
lying. Yeah, we would be
Yes.
lying if we said what people say to our faces or about us does not
Yeah.
impact us. We're
The whole
human.
lie. We are humans. Yes. We live here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and I love what you said too, like the mind fuck of when you stop getting those
Yeah.
comments. And that goes with anything too. I mean, I'm gonna go on a quick tangent and bring it back. But I was listening to a podcast where this woman was talking about her 7-year-old daughter when she was younger, had beautiful blonde, curly hair, and she
Yeah.
constantly got comments on it. And then when she got older, she had
Mhm.
a haircut, and I guess who knows what happens with our curls, but and she
Yeah.
just, and even the little 7-year-old was like, no one says anything about my hair anymore. And
Mm.
it's like,
Yeah.
and she's just crushed and devastated.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
yes. So even the youngest of us who are not
Mhm.
even aware of necessarily body shame, image hierarchy, fat,
Right.
whatever it is, when we talk about how people look and whatnot, it really can have an impact on our psyche and our emotional being.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Well, Dr. Folden, what a pleasure. Can you please let everyone know, and I'll put it in the show notes, how they can find you?
Yes, definitely a pleasure. Thank you again for having me. I live on Instagram, so you can find me there. It's at HealthyPhit. Fit is PHIT. My website is healthyphit.com. I am currently enrolling in my group coaching program where we're breaking up with diet culture. So we're talking about intuitive eating. We're talking about movement modifications and joyful movement. We're talking about health at every size, positive affirmations, all the things to help you reinforce this new anti-diet lifestyle and work on your health from a weight neutral perspective. So that all those links are on my Instagram and my website if you're interested in that and scheduling a call with me. But Instagram, DM me there. I respond.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. What a lovely conversation. Everyone out there, really take a moment and reflect on where some of these conversations are coming from. Are these voices internal, external? If they're internal, where do they come from? Recognizing, I love it all, the hierarchy, right? All of it. So thank you again for your time, and everyone out there, be curious, not judgmental. Goodbye.